and welcome to Mike Nierychlo Online. 'Tis I, your friendly neighborhood wine guy, sharing my love for people, wine, food, and all things made passionately. Alright, today's show. I'm going to try and keep it a short show, but I'm super stoked to talk about this Riesling that I have to showcase today, and the producer of this Riesling. So before I try it, I'm going to talk about the producer. Dickinson. He stopped by the garage several weeks ago to drop off this wine and tell me about what they're doing. They've started up something in the southern Okanagan, well, not total southern, near Oliver, Okanagan Falls, called the Alto Wine Group. Now, through grueling hours of hard work and farming and the realization that the wine world is extremely expensive to get into and takes a lot of work, they realized, wow, it's difficult to start a winery here. How can we make this a little bit more viable, and how can we make it a bit more viable for people who really are passionate about wine and want to make wine but can't afford a startup? So they started something called the Alto Wine Group, and they decided that they would start a custom crush facility. So basically they built a winery that's scalable to produce more than just their wine out of it. So they'd be able to produce wines with other people in the area who are super passionate about making wine and who want to produce a really good British Columbia product. I think it's super cool to have these custom crush facilities. Like I've mentioned on the show before and chatted about Okanagan Crush Pads, same idea as these guys. In doing so, you can brainstorm with your neighbors. You can the camaraderie that goes on in a custom crush facility is super cool. You can, I don't know, it just brings the winemaking up to another level, and you can hold each other accountable to how you're growing your grapes and to how you're making wine and continue to make epic products. To be honest, I think that's the only way British Columbia as a wine world is really going to make it on an international scale. We're running out of land here. We've only got like 9,500 plantable acres in British Columbia, which is a small amount. So we really have to start focusing in and expressing our terroir in little pockets, our Gewürztraminer from this 1 acre hillside, our Merlot from the southern part of this hillside, all these different small entities. If we start producing that and start producing high quality, handcrafted, small lot wines, we'll start making some epic quality here, which is much more viable with custom crush facilities opening up. So I'm all for these custom crush facilities. I think it's super cool, and I'm stoked to see more labels come out of them because they're really expressing what our land has to offer. Anyway, so this is the first wine that they've released from the Alto Wine Group and that Dickinson is producing. They've called it their Synchromesh. So is the label. Synchromesh Riesling. It's their 2010 Riesling. Now Riesling is arguably one of, I've heard this statement before, one of the best wine grapes in the world for one of the best white wine grapes in the world for making white wine. And I've also heard the statement that it's one of the best grapes in the world. Like, that's arguably one of the most interesting grapes on the face of the planet. I personally love Riesling. I don't know if I share that opinion or not, because I love pretty much all wine. But Riesling is definitely up there. It's up there with your Bordeaux. It's up there with your Burgundies. Riesling classically does exceptionally well in Germany, the area of the Moselle, things like that. They do all sorts of different styles of it, and Riesling is very versatile. You can make a completely bone-dry wine with it. You can make a sweet wine with it. You can bridge the gap. It ages exceptionally well. It's a very interesting white wine grape. It's very versatile with food, yada, 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 yada. So I'm super stoked to taste this one from Synchromesh Wines or from the Alto Wine Group. And by the way, what I'll do for you, if you are interested in learning more about Synchromesh Wines or the Alto Wine Group and what they're doing, I'll have links below the video for you to check them out and read up what's going on. Whew, take a breath. Got my handy green blackberry here. Green blackberry, it's like an underripe blackberry. I just want to read their little statement. I'm on Synchromesh's website here, but it says, Synchromesh wines are born of passion for high quality, traditionally styled wines that express truly unique vineyard sites, which is, I think, how wine should work. And, okay, Pinot Noir is one of those vessels that really expresses land and terroir. Giving you a little bit of a nerded fact here, but some people say Pinot Noir is, you barely even taste the grape. You shouldn't really be tasting the juiciness of the grape. You should be tasting the land it's from. It's a vessel that really expresses that. That's kind of the philosophy of Burgundy in France. Riesling is very, very similar to that. Riesling can express terroir so well. It's such a good vessel to express where it came from. Anyway, what else did they say? The name Synchromesh is drawn from a vein that runs deep in our family for collector cars and motorsport. That's what caught my eye right away too. Heck, we're in my garage. You can see my old BMX is sitting next to me here. Over here is my snowboard. I've got an old car sitting sitting in my parents' driveway rotting right now, and I keep wanting to work on it, but I haven't had a chance to. My father-in-law, who's a body man, keeps bugging me about it, and I'll get to it. I got an old motorcycle I got to work on. Anyway, Motorhead. You'd think I'm a beer drinker. I love beer. But I also am passionate about wine. Don't be fooled. Wine drinkers still like beer. It's funny, in the wine... I'm totally segueing here, but that's all right. In the wine world, the amount of pints that are shared at the end of the day is probably almost more than the wine that's produced in that day. It's awesome. The camaraderie, especially here in British Columbia or anywhere in the world, is pretty sweet. And the producers of wine are not snobby, they're not snooty, they're farmers. Hardworking farmers who love to have a beer at the end of the day or a glass of wine, but they love being around people. Wow, that was a segue. Okay, period. Much like producing and collecting wines, vintage and classic cars require meticulous care and borderline neuroticism to bring out the best in them. Of course, we also enjoy and drive our cars with enthusiasm in the same way a carefully aged wine should be enjoyed when the time is right. Now that's another thing with Riesling. Riesling as a white wine, it's one of the few white wines in the world. Well, I shouldn't say few, there's quite a few out there, but Riesling is one of those wines that ages extremely well. It comes with great acidic backbone, tends to have really good sugar if you allow it to be semi-sweet to carry itself. That's the style I believe they've done this one in. They've called it their Halbtrocken. It's a German word, I think, for half sweet, something like that. Let's try this one out. I don't know if I showed you the bottle yet. Probably did already, but I'll show it to you again. 30 bucks a bottle is what they're trying to get for this one. Let's see if it's worth it. Okay. First thing I'm going to say. It smells like Riesling. Riesling has a signature scent. It doesn't necessarily, when you smell Riesling doesn't necessarily smell like certain fruits and things like that. It smells like Riesling, which I really like, I really appreciate. And it's a smell that you should kind of obtain and get to know to really recognize Riesling. It smells like Riesling, but it's got so much interesting fruit going on. I'm smelling honey, which is kind of the semi-sweetness. I'm smelling so much minerality and like earth in this wine. I'm smelling lots of sage, which is everywhere in the Okanagan. It's one of the most prevalent ground brush plants, underbrush plants growing. The other thing I smell is almost like pine. It's very interesting. Pine and some really neat tropical fruits. Yeah, I'm gonna venture to say pineapple meets guava. You know those little guava juice boxes you get? Something along those lines. Definitely honey, those kind of things. Interesting nose. Ooh. Not spitting that out. Okay. 2010. 2010 was a great year for white wine varieties in the Okanagan. It was a cooler year, so you develop your acidity. This wine is not shy for acidity. You got a beautiful acidity on the back end, but great sweetness on the front end. But not like overly sweet, not so much as like, oh, it's too sweet. It gives it just that extra juiciness, makes all the fruit flavors pop a little bit more. The palate is, here's the palate. Up front, apple juice. Loaded with apple juice, sunripe apple juice. Tons of honey. Palate is loaded with honey. Have you ever been to like the honey store and you get those little sticks of like flavored honey? That kind of thing. If you have like a tropical flavored honey. You got pineapple in there. Definitely guava flavors, like those tropical guava flavors. Guava juice. That kind of thing. And lots of neat savory minerality on the finish. Interesting. Very, very yummy wine right now. I think a lot of people would really like this wine. I'm having it at room temperature. Hold on a sec. Question. 11.4% alcohol. I give mad props for that. Did I just say mad props? 11. A white wine like Riesling should seldom have more than 12.5% alcohol. Otherwise, it's starting to take away from the wine. 11.5 is a beautiful number. This wine is going to age really nicely. Right now, all the parts are like, there's sweetness, there's all these things. They're all there. They're very nice. I would love to taste this wine again in a few years and see kind of how it develops in the bottle. Really interesting wine. I do like it. I think it's worth 30 bucks. I'd buy this for 30 bucks. This episode's getting a bit long. That's all right. I've had comments recently from people asking me a few questions like wine and food pairing. That's what I'll touch on today, actually. A wine like this, Riesling, again, a very versatile wine. Because this has the sweetness to it with a beautiful acidity, acidity goes really well with food, especially kind of meat foods or fatty foods or cheeses, because it cuts through it. Kind of how a sparkling wine cuts through really well on potato chips or oiliness. The acidity on this would cut through really nicely on your soft cheeses, your brie, things like that. But what this wine would work exceptional for, similar to Gewürztraminer, is your Indian food, your Thai food, your Chinese food. This would even go well with really spicy Mexican food. Because of that sweetness, it's going to contrast the spiciness and be even more refreshing. A nice chilled bottle of wine this with your Asian food, you're going to be in a very happy place. I like this wine. I got to put it on my wine rating system. Alan, great job. Keep it up. Super stoked to see what else you guys release on that property. I'm putting this as great. This is a great Riesling. I enjoy this Riesling. I like it a lot. I'm going to chill it, enjoy it with friends, and I would love to lie some down in my cellar and taste it in a few years. We're 11 minutes in. Episode is over. Thank you everybody out there so much for watching today. I hope you learned a little bit more. Please check out the links below. Check out Synchromesh. Check out Alto Wine Group and what they're doing. Let's make the BC wine world explode. So thank you everybody out there so much for watching today. I probably said that already. Wine! Depretensiousized. And we'll see you on the next episode.